good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Lots of things coming up for you today. We have Dan Shafer will be here from the Recombobulation area, and also Civic Media's political analyst.
Editor,
that too. He will be here at 10:33. There's a new poll out, the last poll before the election from Marquette University. We'll talk some numbers. Kyle Kilbourn, after 11 o'clock, he is running against Tom Tiffany in the North Woods. See how that race is going?
Yeah.
I know that Tom Tiffany has raised quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Kyle Kilbourn and see how he is feeling about the state of the race. We'll wrap it all up with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. If you ever have a thing that should not be, share it with Greg and me at Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. And of course, Tuesday, it's 4 days away. 4 days away to Election Day. Make sure you are a voter. Make sure you're a voter. Everybody who's anybody is a voter.
Be a voter.
Be a voter. And join us then Tuesday evening, starting at 6 o'clock, for Civic Media's special election night coverage. We will have insight and analysis you're not going to find anywhere else. We have many, many people who are going to be on hand for this. So I hope you can join us for the results as they start coming in Tuesday night, starting here at Civic Media at 6 p.m. We wanted to kick off the show, though, with yet another acknowledgement that we have the least productive state legislature possibly in the country.
Yeah, we
got to be right up there with not getting things done.
Jane, I'm going to need you to keep your voice down. They're currently going in their 9th month of their 10-month vacation.
Oh, we don't want to bother them.
So they're napping right now.
A great article in today's Wisconsin Public Radio from reporter Danielle Kading. Headline reads, "The DNR has been without a secretary for a year. Former agency leaders say that is a problem."
Yeah.
Now, I remember when Governor Evers was elected to his second term a couple of years ago, and at that point, he had over 150 appointees to these boards that our state legislature wouldn't even give hearings to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems like they don't want to make sure that things get done in Wisconsin.
It's almost as if they enjoy not getting things done, between like the gavel in, the gavel out, sitting on money that should be used on the people and programs. It's like they get enjoyment out of gridlock, and I'll say it, hurting the Wisconsin people.
This is the longest the DNR has been without a secretary in more than 2 decades. Former DNR Secretary George Myers saying he can't recall any significant gap in the office in more than 50 years. More than 50 years.
Yeah.
Wisconsinites are very conservation-minded.
Mm-hmm.
We love our outdoors. We love our natural resources. I think that's one of the things we can certainly all agree on. And yet, we don't want to have giving Governor Evers a win, I guess. It's all about preventing a win.
No, yeah, it's about giving him a win. And also, we may be a conservation-minded people here in Wisconsin, but I will say that the GOP is, in Wisconsin at least, is not very conservation-minded. They're very willing to give away land to businesses. They're not going to make companies who poison our waters with PFAS admit to wrongdoing.
Right.
They don't really care that much. I mean, hey, they might want to mine and put big buildings up in the Apostle Islands too. We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, definitely. According to Meyer, again, who was a former DNR secretary, he says the years-long vacancy is at the heart of a political battle between Democratic Governor Tony Evers and the GOP-controlled Senate, which has rejected 21 of Evers' appointees. They include 8 appointees that they fired last fall, as well as Evers' appointee to the Public Service Commission in January. Now, I understand that is their position. They can reject these appointees, but I question whether or not they have the grounds to reject these appointees, other than saying that Governor Evers suggested them.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like you can do it without any sort of justification. And if that's the case, then yes, this is spiteful, this is vengeful, and it's petty.
Republicans hold a 22-10 majority in the Senate with one district vacant. Democrats are hoping to gain seats now that we have new maps, and that will make some districts more competitive. Scott Hassett, also another former DNR secretary, says the governor may be waiting until after the election with the deck reshuffled and it becomes more optimistic about getting someone confirmed. This, to me, also, though, reinforces how important all these down ballot races are.
Correct.
It's not just the two at the top of the ticket. It's not just the presidential race. It's not just the U.S. Senate race here in Wisconsin. It's all of those down ballot races.
Mm-hmm.
Keep this in mind, folks, if you haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
Do we want things to get done in Wisconsin? Do we want money that has already been approved to address PFAS, to address the hospital closings in western Wisconsin? Then maybe we should vote a different way this time. Instead of for some of these guys, and they're mostly guys, who have been in their office for too long.
Yeah, they got into office maybe when all the maps were redrawn, and they haven't had to do a lot of work because they don't have to get votes. Because they don't get challengers or whatever. But let's vote people in, and this goes to all parties who want to work together and get things done.
And that means giving up some things.
That's compromise. It's not a scary word. It's not a bad word. It's not a soft word. It's important.
That's how things get accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we move forward. That's how we make progress.
Yep.
Is by bartering. That's the deal.
Yeah. Make sure you know who's on your ballot. Make sure who's running for your offices locally. That's where the work gets done.
And again, if you have any questions about who your representatives are, if you haven't gone to cast your vote yet, you can go to civicmedia.us/vote. You can also go to myvote.wi.gov and find out. All you have to do is plunk in your address. All of the information will come up, including all of your representatives, as well as their phone numbers.
Yes. Another aspect of myvote.wi.gov is your clerk's office. Look where your clerk is. If you have any questions, we suggest at this point now giving them a call.
Absolutely.
Because every municipality can be different. When they take their ballots, where they take their ballots, what time they close, the last day for voting. It's best to call those clerks today before the weekend because they might not even be open Saturday or Sunday.
Exactly.
And get all the information you need through them directly. Just talk to them. Just talk to them.
Yeah, talk to your municipal clerk. That they know, and that's why they're there, is to answer your questions.
Yeah.
According to this article again in WPR, and we're talking about the lack of a secretary at the head of the DNR. It's been over a year because Wisconsin Republicans just don't want to work. Republican lawmakers say they've approved the vast majority of Evers' appointees, confirming 579 of them since 2019. But there are currently 175 appointees still awaiting Senate confirmation. Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu did not respond to a request for comment. After they fired Evers' appointees last fall, LeMahieu said in a statement they were unqualified to serve.
Devin LeMahieu, he's a guy who doesn't really know what his job is, actually. He said with regard to, I believe it was the vote on allowing municipalities to start counting their ballots during the day. He didn't bring it up. It was a bipartisan bill passed the assembly, heading to the House or to the Senate, and it wasn't even brought up for a vote. And when asked why, Devin LeMahieu said, "That's not my job. What's my job supposed to do?" Yes, that's your job.
That's not his job?
That is absolutely your job, Devin LeMahieu. You're holding things up, and now we get to deal with on Tuesday night people saying, "What about the ballot dumps? Why does everything take so long?" Because the state not only didn't pass the law, but they passed a constitutional amendment saying that you can't have help either.
Right.
So, yeah, here we are.
Well, and again, when we start hearing all these bogus reports of cheating, when ballots start coming in late at night and the count starts to change later in the evening as more ballots come in, you can thank Devin LeMahieu.
Yep.
You can thank the Republicans in the Wisconsin Senate. Carmela from Milwaukee is on the line. Good morning, Carmela. Thank you for joining us. What do you want to say?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up about like down ballots, because I was actually thinking about calling you guys and asking this question. I voted early, and I noticed down ballot that virtually everyone was unopposed and they were all Democratic. And I was actually a little pleasantly surprised by that. And I was going to say, can you ask like one of your political experts about this? Is that a good sign? Do you think it has to do with the remapping? I don't know. I was just curious about that. And I realized that it's just, I'm in Milwaukee County and it may be different throughout the state.
I think it is. Yeah, I hear you, Carmela. Thank you for that. And we can ask Dan Shafer about that. But I think, especially in Milwaukee County, I'm not surprised that they didn't have any challengers.
In Kenosha, too, we had a bunch of unchallenged. It was a lot of, and this doesn't have to do with the maps if they're things like the clerk and the district attorney. The maps have to do with the state senate and the assembly. But yeah, like in Kenosha, tons of unopposed people who are Democratic running for small offices because no one runs for them.
Well, and again, it takes a lot of dedication to run for office. Thank you, Carmela. Hope you're doing well. And thank you for listening. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of thick skin.
Well,
when you look at some of the attack, we talked about this, this attack ad against Luann Byrd just makes me laugh.
Yeah. I mean, if you're running for state assembly or state senate, governor, the federal ones, I get that. But when you're running for city clerk, first of all, it should not be an elected official. It should be appointed by the mayor. You shouldn't have attack ads run on you for just wanting to run the clerk's office.
No, you really shouldn't.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Yes.
So, but here we are, 4 days away.
Here we are.
4 days.
Remember this, if we want to get things done, maybe it's time to vote for some change as you head into the voting booth. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. Newt Gingrich has thoughts.
Great. Can't
we'll
wait.
Share those next, right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and the Calvinator coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number's the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment. If you're watching on the live stream, do a little chair dancing on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that used to be Twitter. After the 10:30 news, rather, Dan Shafer will be here from the Recombobulation area. Going to break down the latest poll from Marquette University. And there's another poll out there that I think we should talk about. It's called Polymarket. It's actually not a polling firm. It's a betting company. But counting on the results of an election by following a company where you place bets seems like a complete sure thing to me.
It sounds like where thruples go to find their dates.
So we will be kicking that around after the 10:30 news. But I wanted to come back to this. We spent some time talking about this with the WisDems chair Ben Wickler yesterday. There is an ad out. One is voiced by Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
One is voiced by George Clooney. And we also had an ad that we got a couple of weeks ago.
Totally legitimate.
Completely real. Super PAC.
Yes.
But it's kind of the same message.
Yeah.
Very much the same message.
Yeah.
So, Calvin, if you don't mind, let's play clip number 1, please. This is that Julia Roberts ad that you might be seeing on TV.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
Well, when this hit and the outrage among some of the right-wingers, Charlie Kirk, and the meltdown has just been a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah.
This is
Jesse Waters.
the destruction of the family and the ultimate betrayal. And oh my God, they're telling people to lie to their spouses. Of all people to check in on this,
Yeah.
here's former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Calvin, that's clip number 2.
I mean, how do you run a country where you're walking around saying wives should lie to their husbands, husbands should lie to their wives? I mean, what kind of a totally amoral, corrupt, sick system have the Democrats developed? If you think about it at that level, it is astonishing.
Yeah, Newt, you know what's kind of astonishing? Is that you have a pretty well-established record of infidelity. He's on his 3rd wife.
Yeah.
He cheated on his 2nd wife with his current wife. And granted, he has admitted, I'm a flawed person. Not everyone is perfect. And I absolutely get that. I do. We are all flawed. We all have character flaws.
Yeah.
It's the hypocrisy
Yes.
that drives me crazy. How dare Newt step out as the arbiter of all that is moral? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, well, and the same thing with like Jesse Waters lost his head about it too, saying that it was tantamount to
of having an
an
affair.
affair, which is funny for a guy who had an affair with his first wife.
Yeah.
I mean, like once again, nobody's perfect. And if one of these guys said, "Look, I'm no moral leader, and I've made mistakes, but this I don't believe is correct." Okay, there's another conversation. But to just pass yourself off without any sort of flaw, it's ridiculous. And honestly, I was going to say this yesterday. We didn't have time. I'm seeing pushback on social media about these ads too, especially the Lincoln Project one, where it's the 2 husbands who are like, she's voting the right way,
right?
And then they don't. They wink and whatever, saying that these ads make it seem like women don't have the ability to vote how they want to vote. Well,
in some cases, that's true.
in some cases, they don't. And if you're not in one of those relationships and you don't know anyone, good for you. That's great that you have an open, loving relationship. And if you disagree on candidates and you can talk about it, fantastic. But that doesn't mean that there aren't women out there, or maybe even children of voting age out there, who are being told who they have to vote for and feeling pressured because they feel like, my God, that one lady we talked about in Georgia, 81 years old, voted for the first time because her husband said your vote wouldn't count.
He didn't want her to vote.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people out there in situations where they're having their rights, their voices suppressed. And these ads are telling them, no, you get to do what you want in that voting.
You can
booth.
vote your conscience.
I love that line in the one place where a woman can still choose.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is true. And just a little reminder in case you've forgotten while we're talking about good old Newton
Leroy
Gingrich. While he was leading the impeachment proceedings against Bill Clinton for lying about fooling around with Monica Lewinsky, at the same time, Newt was having an affair. When he was later asked if he considered himself to be living in a glass house, he reluctantly agreed, but defended himself by saying, I think you have to look at whether or not people have to be perfect in order to be leaders. I don't think I'm perfect. I admitted I had problems. I admitted I sought forgiveness. Just admit you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
That'd be a real good place to start.
That's the thing is like people make mistakes. Come forth and say something.
I don't have a problem with that.
Not one bit. And in fact, if anything, the respect will be there for you to put yourself on the line.
And my biggest takeaway from all this, I was watching MSNBC yesterday, and they also talked about these freakouts from Charlie Kirk and Jesse Waters about my wife might lie to me about how she's going to vote. And Nicole Wallace on MSNBC said, men think women never fake anything. Boom.
Well, and also Jesse Waters said that this is the same as having an affair, and he got so heated about it that I think it was Maria Bartiromo said, "Are you intimidating her?"
Yeah.
Like,
and then they had to go to break.
Yes, listen to your words, gentlemen. Listen to what you are saying. You think that your comfort is more important than her right.
Hypocrite much.
Lots, Newton Leroy.
News is coming up next. When we return, Dan Shafer will be here. We'll do some recombobulating. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you on the statewide, countrywide, potentially globally on the app, Civic Media Radio Network.
Come on, baby. Baby. Just look at me. Look at me. You got me in a state of shock. Look at that. Look at me.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calviente on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine, Wisconsin. You can always join us. You can call or text. The number's the same, 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Or leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Putz de Leon continues to actively ruin. He joins us every Friday so we can do a little recombobulating. Dan Shafer is here. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, Jane. How are you guys doing today?
I think we all feel the same. Greg and I are sharing many deep sighs with 4 days to go before Election Day. So let's start.
Yeah, 4 days to go in Election Day. We're in political media. We're in Wisconsin. It's a lot. It's a lot, Jane.
It is
Greg.
a lot.
It's a lot.
There's a lot going on. So let's start off with talking about the latest poll from Marquette University.
That's right. As I always do at the recombobulation area, I did an in-depth breakdown of the latest results of the Marquette University Law School poll. Lots of interesting takeaways. I encourage you to go take some time to give this a read. But we know at the top of the ticket, it's a toss-up. We know it's Wisconsin. We know it's close. Harris is up by 1. Baldwin is up by 2. Those are both within the margin of error. This could certainly go either way. But I think within the poll, there were some really interesting things that jumped out. And one of the things that the Marquette poll did this time was group the last 4 polls together so that we have like kind of a larger sample size of what's happened. Because since Harris has entered the race, not a whole lot has changed in the 4 polls that Marquette has taken since she entered the race. And so, given that dynamic, we have a little bit of a larger sample to see, where things are headed, where the vote choice is, among different demographic groups. There are a number of interesting charts that they put out. But I think within this, there was a really huge gender gap in a number of different ways, and a gender gap that was specific to certain generations, too. And this is one of the things that I posted about in my recap on Twitter, and it has gone super viral. It's been like one of my most engagement on any tweets that I've had. But this one is specifically about Generation X and the gender gap in the politics among Gen X. So Gen X has been identified as the most pro-Trump generation in Wisconsin, but by a fairly considerable margin. I think most people would think the boomers, the older folks.
Blame it on the boomers.
Yeah, but actually, the age group of 45 to 59-year-olds in Wisconsin have consistently polled, and not just the recent polls, not just Harris-Trump, have consistently polled as the most Republican-leaning generation. So the way they break it down in the Marquette poll is 18 to 29. So I think we can refer to that group as Gen Z. 30 to 44, those are the millennials. 5 to 59. Those are Gen X, and then 60 and above, the boomer generation. And it is striking how Republican-leaning Gen X really is.
Is that for both men and women?
Well, that's where the key divide is there, Jane. The men favor Trump in this poll, in these 4 polls grouped together by a 36-point margin.
Wow.
In that 45 to 59 range. That men in Gen X, that is like the most pro-Trump of any age group. But the women of Gen X, the huge divide here, the women of Gen X favored Harris by a 14-point margin. That's actually more pro-Harris than the millennials, than millennial women. So, and millennial men lean, let me just make sure I have this correctly. Millennial lean Trump only by an 8-point margin. So you have Gen X men significantly more pro-Trump than millennial men, and then pretty similar numbers, millennials and Gen X, among women who favor Harris. It's pretty wild, isn't it?
It is. And I'm honestly, I'm not super surprised that Gen X men, and we're seeing comments in the live stream saying, well, that's not true. It's polling. It's what the
it's a sample.
It's what the information found out. We're not here to I'm not disputing what they do over there, but I'm honestly not surprised that Gen Xers men are pro-Trump. I mean, we're in our 40s and 50s now, and guys can get, grouchy and complainy and don't like being told what to do. They didn't like being told what to do when they were 20, when the boomers were saying things about them. I don't know. There's probably a much more deeper psychological reason why, but Dan, when you give us that information, it just doesn't hit me as a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is, a certain aspect of like kind of growing up in the Reagan years or whatever it might be, having that just kind of like baked into your political psyche of that type of mentality towards politics that is hard to shake, after a long time.
It might be a thing of like, my old
and
man
maybe
was right.
maybe people, grew up. Maybe a lot of men were watching The Apprentice or something like that too, and might have a different view of Donald Trump because of it, right?
Well, this leads us to a conversation we had earlier in the week about this obsession with alpha and beta males. And if Donald Trump is the definition and the best example of an alpha male, what I take away from that is an alpha male is always right, never takes responsibility for anything, is a bully, punches down,
hypersensitive,
and insulting.
Mm-hmm. Now that's the true alpha. That's the sign of a real alpha male,
right?
Isn't it? Yeah.
But that, and I find it amazing that Gen X men are less cranky than Boomer men. That's shocking to me.
Less cranky.
Or more. That Gen X men are more cranky than
more cranky.
More cranky.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Boomers, there's a much more narrow, gulf between in the gender divide there. Like men in the 60+ generation favor Trump by 4%. Women favor Harris by 7%. So it's much closer in the oldest generation that is in the poll compared to the youngest. Now, I will note here too that the 18 to 29-year-olds, it's a pretty even split among men for Trump and Harris. For women, it is not an even split. 36-point margin for women under 30 years old favoring Kamala Harris. And I think that is what I want to talk about too, is there is such striking numbers for women in the polling of this race between Harris and Trump. And I think it is, it is especially striking in the suburbs. They break this down by region as well. And for, suburban areas in and around Milwaukee, Waukesha County was like voting Republican by like 40-point margins as recently as like 10 years ago in Waukesha County. That's not the case anymore. And now in the suburbs, and this includes Dane County suburbs too, so that might be pulling the numbers a little bit further towards Democrats. But women in the suburbs favor Harris by an 18-point margin. And I think those numbers with women are really overwhelming and really hard to deny. And it's women under the age of 30, women in the suburbs, and college-educated women in particular favor Harris by a 36-point margin. And I think that is, after the Dobbs decision, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, this being the first presidential election with that, and the way that has just been one of the major events of the last 4 years in American politics. I don't think women are going to forget that when they go to the polls this year. And I think we might be underestimating just the turnout among women and just the enthusiasm among women for this election for Kamala Harris, especially in kind of a post-Dobbs America.
I want to make it perfectly clear. I never underestimated any of the women. I've always believed in the women.
Former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker said that they're going to forget about this. Women are going to forget about the abortion thing. It's all fine. It's all good. Yeah, we're not forgetting.
No.
Sorry. That's kind of stuck with us, the whole bodily autonomy thing. I don't know. It makes some of us a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I think, you look at this election, it is a toss-up. Anyone who tells you they have the end of where this election is going to go either way, that they're wrong, because either candidate could win. This is not a clear pro-Harris poll. This is not a clear pro-Trump poll by any of the stretch of the imagination.
And that just reinforces how important it is that everyone go cast a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Absolutely.
cast your ballot.
But the point that I made in my breakdown is that if it does come to pass that Donald Trump loses again and Kamala Harris wins in Wisconsin, it will be because of the women of the state. It will clearly be because of the women of the state of Wisconsin who will have in droves to vote for Kamala Harris and vote against Donald Trump.
I think it's going to be like in 2020 when Georgia went for Joe Biden, the credit was going to basically black women who came out and voted in droves. It's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, people are saying, we got people in the comments right now saying, when are we going to start looking at it from a point of view of polling doesn't really give us a clear idea because
polls don't vote.
They don't vote, but also, something that you said, Jane, off the air was that, it can be a 50-50 split, but then there are people out there who aren't getting polled, who are not giving the information because in 2016, people didn't say they were voting for Trump because they didn't want to get ostracized. Now I feel like there are people out there who say they're voting for, and this is it's a gut feeling, people. It's intuitive thinking. They're saying they're going to vote for Trump or not saying anything, and they're going to vote for Harris because it's just gone too far.
Yeah, there are people. I think there is some Trump fatigue. There are some people who are just exhausted after 8 years of this man being the dominant political figure in American politics, and I think that is certainly going to be a factor. But again, it's super close. I cannot overstate how close this is. And if there is a polling miss, like like you mentioned in 2016. Then Donald Trump's going to win. But I just don't think that the environment is the same now that it was in 2016. And I think the shift with women, and it's not just that women are voting more for Democrats because that's always been the case. Because if you look around the state of Wisconsin, the trends that have happened that have shaped the politics in our state for the past few years, that have driven Democratic victories in 14 of the last 15 statewide elections, I don't think those trends are slowing down with women. I don't think the Trump campaign has prioritized bringing women into the tent of the Republican Party really at all. They've been trying to get more of these what political science dorks like myself call the low propensity voters, people who might not necessarily vote in the midterms, might not vote in their local elections, might only want to vote for Trump. Get them to turn out for Trump. But I think that there's just such an overwhelming trend in the suburbs with women, with college-educated women in particular, that do think there is, I think ultimately at the end of the day, I would rather be in the Harris camp than the Trump camp for Wisconsin right now.
Well, and we are seeing more stories come out about women who are dying, women who had pregnancies they wanted. There's another one. The story just broke today. She went to the emergency room 3 times. She was rejected 3 times, and now she's dead. And women aren't going to forget that.
Yeah,
Nor should we.
I think if there's any factor that's going to be underestimated right now, it is the dedication of women to vote in this election.
I think if the Republicans are going to do anything for themselves, they should really take their own advice from the past 2-3 election cycles where they didn't get the red wave they wanted and actually do the work, which is a ground game, talking to the people, knocking on doors, because that's what they say they need to do. They need to open, as you said, Dan, open that tent up, bring in more people, not just 1 or 2 examples of, hey, we're not sexist and racist. You got to get out there and knock on those doors and talk to people. And they just never, ever get it through their brains.
But that's because I think they cannot defend so many of these positions. I just don't think that they have a strong defense for this. We're going to continue our conversation with Dan Shafer, our political editor, and the author of the Recombobulation Area. You're listening to Matenaer On Air on this Civic Media Radio Network.
Hoping for a relaxing weekend. Once I get strapped in the 210, wheels up and we'll be rocking. Getting out of frozen Wisconsin. I need you to recombobulate me. I want you to recombobulate me. I need you to recombobulate me. Won't somebody recombobulate me?
good morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board. Coming to you from Radio Park here in Racine, Wisconsin. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that used to be Twitter. Just a reminder, an hour from now, we will wrap up the show as we do every day with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today, it is the Great Cheese Caper edition. Stick around for This Shouldn't Be a Thing coming up around 11:51. Dan Shafer is here. He's the Civic Media political editor and also the author of the Recombobulation Area. We were talking about the latest polls as we are only 4 days away from Election Day. Dan, are you familiar with Polymarket at all?
Nope, you're muted, Dan.
I'm back now. Sorry about that.
Yay!
But yes, I am familiar with Polymarket to a certain degree. I am not a gambler myself. But
well, and that's just it. I keep seeing things on my social medias. Polymarket is predicting a Donald Trump blowout by 63%. And blah, blah, blah. It's a betting site. This is not a polling company, people.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Americans cannot bet on this site.
That's my understanding of it as well. Yeah.
So outside money, outsiders, people outside of the U.S. are betting on the outcome of the U.S. election, and we have some people here that are using this as what is going to be the determining factor. Don't count on a gambling website for accurate information about results. That just seems, I don't know, somehow unwise.
Yeah, I would not use that particular data. There's a lot of good data out there. I would not consider that to be good data. And I think the thing that I like about that poll and why I write about it over and over and over again is they are so transparent with their data. There's like rankings of the different pollster sites, and Marquette ranks as the #1 best in the country for transparency. So they put so much data that, they get beyond just the head-to-head. They get into the issues. They get into the crosstabs, look at the details all up and down the ballot. But it's really transparent, and that's why I've written about it that I have at the Recombobulation Area, and why I think it is an especially valuable poll for Wisconsin.
But again, the Franklin poll, that poll has been around for a very long time, as you said, Dan. It's very well established, and it's credible. Anybody, because I asked you about this a couple weeks ago, anybody, if they want to, can start a polling company. You can have Stan and Dan's America Integrity Polling, and they only talk to 5 people, and then they publish the results that get picked up by some podcaster who has no experience but just decides to platform that. So you want to take all of these polls that are going to be coming out in the next couple of days, take them with a real big grain of salt. And don't forget that polls don't vote, and street sign or yard signs don't vote. People vote.
People vote, and that was Charles Franklin's closing message, as it always is in the final Marquette University Law School poll. Polls don't vote, people do. You have the power to decide the outcome of this election.
Absolutely. You still got a couple of days. If you're going to vote on Election Day, it is next Tuesday. You can still vote early. If you have questions about who is representing you, where you need to go to cast your ballot, go to civicmedia.us/vote. That's also where you can find Dan's great voter guide that breaks down all of the races all across Wisconsin. It's extremely detailed. Mm-hmm. And you can also go to myvote.wi.gov. And just a reminder to please be nice to the poll workers.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're doing us an enormous service. And from different things I've been seeing from different parts of the country, there are some wackadoodle things going on. Most places don't allow you to wear a Harris Walls hat or a Trump Vance hat or any stuff like that. If they ask you to take it off, just take it off and be nice about it.
Just wear your Packer jersey. Don't bother with the political stuff there, whatever.
No Aaron Rodgers jerseys, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Not in my polling place.
Or Brett Favre.
Or I guess Brett Favre, yeah. So in the last couple minutes that we have here, I want to plug something that will be published soon at the Recombobulation Area that is a very big project that I've been working on for a number of weeks now. I'm writing a feature story about politics in the Fox Valley. I'm a UW Oshkosh graduate. I have a lot of family in and around the Fox Valley, and I think it's a really important swing region of the state. So I spent some time there, talked to a lot of the candidates, and I think part of it is part of the politics of the region is not just that it is swingy for the top of the ticket. We know that both candidates have been to Green Bay. I think Kamala Harris is in Appleton this afternoon for something. But I think, looking at the big picture, there are kind of these colliding trends. And I think it is a microcosm of what is happening in Wisconsin. And with new maps, there are so many more competitive seats in the area. There's a toss-up state Senate seat in Green Bay, a close seat in the Fox Valley, 3 toss-up seats in the Fox Valley and Green Bay in the Assembly. You've got the open congressional seat that Dr. Kristen Lyerly is running in. There's really a clean slate for a lot of the races there, really a fresh opportunity to find new representation for the area. So subscribe to the Recombobulation Area. That story will be in your inbox in probably within the next 24 hours here. So spend some time with that one.
Another way to look at it, too, is let's give some of our long-term politicians an opportunity to do something new.
To do something new.
Something new. It's for them.
Yes.
We're looking out for them. Dan Shafer is the editor and our political editor for Civic Media. He's also the author of the Recombobulation Area. We're going to see you on Tuesday in Madison, Dan.
I'll be there. Looking forward to it.
4 days to go. News is coming up next. When we return, Kyle Kilbourn will be here to talk about his race against Tom Tiffany. This is Matenaer On Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Blinded by
Good morning, Kyle. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. We come back from break in about 3 minutes.
All right, sounds great.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jay Matenaer, Greg Bach, Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio here at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call or text. It's the same number, 855-752-4842. You can leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up after the 11:30 news, we're going to talk about a little self-care. And we're going to do an update with a woman that we met a couple of weeks ago, Greg. Margie Lowe is a senior citizen who only just became active.
Yes.
Trying to be an organizer now. And she has an update from a candidate forum that she organized. And she sent me an email last night. We were chatting a little bit. I want to give you an update about that. I encourage everyone to be a Margie.
Yes, be a Margie. Get up and do something.
Be a Margie. Get involved. Get up and do something. 4 days to go. That is the reason we are having our next guest join us. Kyle Kilbourn is running for U.S. Congress. He is running in the 7th Congressional District, which comprises much of northern and northwestern Wisconsin. Good morning, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you are running against Tom Tiffany, who is seeking a third full term in the U.S. House. He had previously spent a decade serving in the state legislature. You are new at this, Kyle. Why did you decide to jump into this?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town and a small farm. My parents had an acre farm, and my dad was a construction worker, and my mom was a waitress. So we come from a working class family. But I was able to achieve my American dream. I went to school and was able to leave home and get a good job. But I don't see that very often happening especially northern Wisconsin these days. And so I want to make sure that people can do that, whatever their American dream is, and not that they have to leave our rural communities to get that done. And so that's why I decided to run. A friend of mine just sort of asked, have you ever thought about running for office? I'm like, no. Thought about it for a couple months, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I have some skills. I can make this happen.
It's a really big district, Kyle. You must be putting on a lot of miles.
Yeah. It's 26 parts of 26 counties in Wisconsin. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of miles. My car just hit 50,000, and it's 2 years old, so it's got the miles.
Yeah. What are you hearing when you're out on the roads, when you're knocking on doors? What are folks telling you?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is, the rising cost of living. It's expensive. Price of groceries, gas, prescription drugs, housing and car insurance as well is one of those things. And so everyone's feeling that squeeze, especially for rural Wisconsin. We have to travel a long ways to get to our doctors. It's, 60 miles just to go to the doctor for me. So, it's one of those things. We all feel it.
While healthcare is a big issue for everyone around the country, what can we do? What would you do if you're elected, Kyle, to try and make things more accessible for all of us?
Yeah, for this district, it's just not about affordability, but it's also having access to doctors. And what we're seeing is, hospitals closing around the district. Nursing care facilities are shutting down and being privatized. One of the things around it is about how we reimburse rural communities to keep these things open. So, you have a ER in a urban area, it's easier to keep that around because more people visit it, but you still need that ER in a small community. And, we need to make sure that the funding stays there for that.
Well, having to drive an hour away, I mean, that's really scary. If you're in an accident, if you're a farmer and you have an accident on the farm and you're an hour away from a hospital, that's really frightening.
Yeah, and it's getting worse. I mean, 30% of the rural hospitals in this country are in danger of shutting down. So it's just something that's gonna get worse until we actually decide to fix it, and that's what I plan to do.
Kyle Kilbourn is our guest. He is running in the 7th Congressional District, which comprises a big chunk of northern and northwestern Wisconsin, and he is running against Tom Tiffany. I did read something, Kyle, that said that, again, Tom Tiffany is an incumbent. He's been there for a long time. He's got a pretty big war chest.
He does. I think the latest headline is 6 times raised more than me. The funny thing is he's raised 1.2 this cycle, but he's actually spent 1.4 million, and so he's actually spending more than he raised. So he's wearing down that war chest, which is pretty amazing that we're able to make him do that.
We've talked quite a bit about Tom Tiffany's sudden desire to have the Apostle Islands declared a national park. Are you hearing much about that when you go door to door?
Oh, definitely.
Are you?
I've even had Republicans write me a letter and saying they're opposed to it. Like they're like, wow. How do I get your yard sign? And so I'm like, well, you're gonna have to go to a Dem office. They're like, all right, well, that's gonna be fun. Our neighbors are gonna be confused. We're gonna have a Trump sign and we're gonna have your sign, but we're just so opposed to it.
And what is their opposition? Because again, we've talked about this a couple of times, and it seems like, at least for the detractors of this, it seems like Tom Tiffany wants to use this in order to encourage mining on one particular island in the Apostle Islands, Sand Island, instead of working with communities to find out if they're prepared to handle a big influx of tourists.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. There's different reasons why people oppose it. Part of that is, it's the lack of infrastructure that actually can handle that. The city and the county of Bayfield are opposed to it because they can't handle the tourists we have now with the housing, the strain is going to put on, the emergency services. I think for some people, they love the Apostle Islands as they are and worry about what's going to happen to them. Sand Island is one of those things where it becomes a preserve, which has less protections. And so that's definitely one of those things. The tribal communities are upset that, some of their treaty rights are going to be affected as well. And there's no guarantee for that. So, it's a mixed bag. My perspective is Tom's doing it because he wants to run for governor, wants to get known around the state. And that's his perspective of why he's doing this.
Oh my God, I never even thought about that, Kyle. Oh no. Well, Kyle, we've talked to a lot of candidates, and one of the things that interests us, and Jane alluded to it a little bit a moment ago, was knocking on doors and having those conversations with people. And you just spoke about, Republicans who will have a Trump sign and a sign for you. When you're knocking on those doors and people see that you're running for office, are they, how do they feel about having the actual candidate come to their door and take the time to listen to what they need out of their representation here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, such a big district, most of the time people don't see candidates. And so I've been to, like Florence County, I knocked on a door there. It's way, way up northern by the Michigan border. And they're like, shock. Like, I've never had anyone knock on my door ever.
What are you doing here?
I am a congressman.
So, it's fun to do that and then sort of meet people that way, and I go up to everyone, I go up to people that have Trump hats and, say, hey, I'm running for Congress. They're like, oh, what are you running as? Democrat. Like, oh, well, I don't like Democrats. I'm like, but I'm running against Tiffany. Oh, okay. Well, that's different. Like,
let's talk.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
amazing.
Is there Tiffany fatigue, do you think, Kyle?
Oh, definitely. One of the things I love doing when I drive, across the district is looking at yard signs and seeing if they have the whole collection or not. Often they don't. The Republicans might have a Trump and a Hovde, but then they skip over Tiffany and go to an assembly candidate. And so I'm like looking at, okay, do they have the collection or not? And, making up stories of what that might mean. But I think a lot of people they know him. He's been running for 20 years in Wisconsin. So he started, running for state Senate and, and I think people are tired of him.
Well, and I think, again, they're tired of the inaction.
Yeah.
They're tired of nothing getting done. And the lip service, again, talking about, there were several articles about Tom Tiffany's sudden support now to turn the Apostle Islands into a national park. And yeah, he met with lobbyists in Washington about this. He met with some representatives of the tribes involved in Washington, but he hasn't actually gone to those areas and talked to the mayor of Bayfield and the other cities that would be impacted by this.
Yeah, I mean, he's talked to his Republican Assembly friends. I mean, and get their letters of support. It's like, okay, well, yeah, of course your colleagues and friends are going to support this, but what about the people on the ground? And so, we see that, 30 days I started running against a different candidate. He's been one of the authors of raising the Social Security age. He was part of the Republican Study Committee in 2023 that put a proposal together. And 30 days before election, he says, "Oh no, I don't support raising the age." And so, like,
of course not.
Of course not. It's a re-election season, so he's had a change of tune.
Did he take a photograph standing near the Blotnick Bridge and then claiming credit for bringing the money to that district? He voted against the Infrastructure Act.
Yeah, and now he says, "Oh, it's a good idea."
Oh, what a great thing!
Yes, like a lot of those politicians do. Like, we got $300 million for the thing that I voted against.
Yes, yeah, it's the same thing with veteran benefits and the PACT Act, which supported veterans that were overseas and had exposure to toxic chemicals. He voted against that. So it's and he's running a veterans ad, like how he helps veterans, and so it's the hypocrisy is large.
Yeah.
Kyle Kilbourn is our guest. He is running for the 7th Congressional District here in Wisconsin against Tom Tiffany. Kyle, do you think that the change in the maps has more people excited about this election now that we might actually be able to see some changes instituted in Wisconsin?
Yeah, definitely. I've been running since April 2023, so one of probably the most longest running candidates out there. Have yet to meet someone that has been running longer than me. And so I could see these waves. So when the maps were announced, you could see that this excitement around all these new candidates coming out. This district, it is so huge. So we have a lot of assembly and state Senate candidates, and it's been amazing to sort of see them out on the ground and talking with them and that excitement. And then when the top of the ticket changed, that was like the second wave of excitement. So, this district, it's often written off as, not viable, but, we see this excitement. We see volunteers. The first year I was running picnics and fairs, it was a lot of older folks. And then the second year, it was a lot of new folks that had never volunteered before, never gone out there. And so I met this veteran and wife who, for the first time, are coming to volunteer. They got kicked out of a Trump rally. So it's pretty amazing.
They got kicked out of a Trump rally?
Yeah, they were protesting. They were in the spot where the airport told them to be, and then the Trump people said, "No, you can't be here," and so they got kicked out. And it was the first time they've ever volunteered and gotten involved in politics. So it was pretty amazing.
We're going to continue our conversation with Kyle Kilbourn, running in the 7th Congressional District here in Wisconsin. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media Radio Network.
What else to do about it?
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park here in Racine. You can always join us. You can call. You can text. The number's the same, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Our guest is Kyle Kilbourn. He is running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District against Tom Tiffany. Kyle, we have a phone call we're going to take real quickly. Cindy from Appleton. Good morning, Cindy. Thanks for joining us. What's up?
Good morning, Kyle. Good luck to you because that Tiffany's got to go. Anyway, a few things you forgot to talk about where he is in support of more CAFOs in the state. He's also in support of more big mining. He opposes any kind of regulation for PFASs. He is anti-wolf. He was one of them that voted to have that wolf slaughter up north in February of 2021. And he also does not support the Endangered Species Act. So I'm wondering where you are on all of those issues.
Thank you, Cindy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point of contention between us. I think for me, I acknowledge climate change, which he does not. He thinks it's a hoax. He still says hurricanes, there's always been hurricanes. I just had a discussion with him this week, and he's like, well, yeah, there's more costs in Florida from hurricanes because more people are living down there. It has nothing to do with more hurricanes. So it's
no.
It's crazy. So, for me, climate change, yeah, it's a threat, but it's also an opportunity that we're not taking advantage of. Wisconsin is, our love of outdoors. It's amazing. And unfortunately, because we have someone like Tiffany who doesn't believe in climate change, he doesn't believe in renewable energy either. And so we're not taking advantage of, the Infrastructure Act and the Climate Change Act to sort of build those new technologies and build that production in the district. And so for me, that is one of the key planks of my platform is the environment and making sure that we have clean water and clean air. We are finding PFAS all across the district. In Oneida County, one of the wells in one of the cities is like one of the worst in the nation for PFAS exposure. And so, it's something that he says, well, we need more research. We don't know what the effects of it, and we need to do more research. So we need to start taking action. And that's where we differ is he'll just say we need more research without getting,
without getting anything done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to spend money on it because that's his big platform. Money, anything that costs money in a bill, he votes no. I mean, it could be funding the government, it could be anything that costs money, no.
I mean, he can look for more research. Meanwhile, people in communities he represents are drinking bottled water because they can't drink the water coming out of their tap. So I asked, this is me asking Tom Tiffany if he's listening. He's not, but still, where's your research? How much is enough? Let us know, because people are or are you going to pay for all their bottled water while you're at it? Because these people need they deserve clean drinking water.
And I would think too, Kyle, not that we talked about this earlier in the show, that Wisconsin's very much a pro-conservation state. We have all kinds of outdoors people and hunters and all of that stuff. And folks on the ground in the 7th Congressional District have seen the climate change with their own eyes.
Yeah, we experienced it last winter when the snow didn't come. That devastated our tourism industry, and sort of ignore that and say how are we going to protect the district and make sure that it stays the way it is. And tourism is a huge thing, and he's still advocating for mining. Like even in Oneida County, he has some friends on the board that tried to bring it up again, and the voters have voted multiple times. We do not want mining up here. And he still tries. He's working with American Stewards of Liberty, this anti-conservation group, to bring this stuff up here. It's just, it's crazy.
It's amazing what you can accomplish when you have such American Stewards of Liberty. Good Lord. One of the things, Kyle, you spoke about before is that people will look at the northwest area of Wisconsin as foregone. It's going to be red. It's going to be Trump. But I worked in the Obama election in 2008. And that area voted handily for Barack Obama. There is the energy and the thoughts and the people out there to bring out those votes. And you're talking to them, and what we're hearing is that they want to change. I'm not saying they're going to become Democrats or liberals all of a sudden, but they're willing to put your sign on their yard along with a Trump sign to show that it's not just red and blue. It's who's going to do best for the state.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. People are like, well, I don't vote party. I vote the candidate. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. Yeah. And people do take the time to actually research candidates. They're just not a straight ticket sort of group. They actually take the time and sort of look at what the candidates are saying, what they're going to do for them.
We've been talking a lot about, early turnout. Women are turning out in big numbers in this election. And we've talked a lot about the effect of the Dobbs overturn and also these ads now that are airing, encouraging husbands, wives, both sides to vote your conscience when you go in the booth. Your spouse, your partner doesn't need to know how you vote. Are you feeling much of that at the doors?
There is some, I've been in some houses, very few, but I've been chased off the lawn by the husbands.
Oh my goodness.
It does happen. But I think, what this area is known for is independence and freedom. And so when we talk about freedoms, and especially reproductive freedoms, people understand okay, this is a woman. We don't need to have the government telling us what to do. And people respect that. When you tell them, do you really want the government involved in your doctor's office? And they don't. Even no matter what side they're on, most of them say, no, I don't want that. And so they understand that.
I'm relieved. I'm relieved that they don't necessarily take their OBGYN advice, say, from a veterinarian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kyle Kilbourn is a candidate for the 7th Congressional District running against Tom Tiffany. Thank you so very much for joining us, Kyle.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Good luck.
Thank you.
4 days. 4 days. News is coming up next when we return. A little update on Margie Lowe. Be a Margie.
Be a Margie.
You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast, statewide, nationwide, potentially globally, Civic Media Radio Network.
You're the best new face in the human race.
welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Sweet Cal B on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. Call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Putz de Leon continues to actively ruin. Just a reminder, Tuesday, Election Day, November 5th, we have special Civic Media coverage of the election starting at 6 p.m. with a cast of thousands. Dan Shafer will be there. He's going to have his own little recombobulation area.
Is he going to be our Steve Kornacki?
Yeah, we're going to go to him.
Is he going to get a touchscreen?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe not a touch screen, but it's going to be great. It really is. So I hope you can join us across the Civic Media Radio Network next Tuesday, starting at 6 p.m. right after Dom Salvia wraps up his show. So a bunch of us are going to be in Madison next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I wanted to mention this because I was just so impressed with her. We met Margie Lowe a couple of weeks ago.
October the 16th.
October the 16th. She had sent us an email on Jane Says. So if you ever want to reach out to the show, the easiest way is Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS at civicmedia.us, because she had decided to organize a town hall meeting.
Yes.
She's never done anything like this before. She's in her 70s.
Yeah.
But she's just tired of the incivility. And she said, you used to be able to have town halls where people would disagree about things, but you could actually talk about things. And now we have so many politicians that won't even show up to town halls because they don't want to deal with it.
And a lot of them will gloss over the concerns of the senior community.
Yes. So she set up this town hall at the Marriott where she encouraged seniors to attend, and then she reached out to a bunch of candidates. And I got a follow-up from her, and I just wanted to share this with you. She said, here's a few things I learned after hosting this event. This is from Margie Lowe. It's hard to do this alone, but not impossible. I have a new respect for campaign organizers. Keep good records. Write everything down. I'm creating a how-to manual because she's going to keep doing this. And she says, don't get discouraged. Just plan for the next election.
And honestly, this is how these types of events get started. They start as a small little event in a hotel conference room, and then it becomes a thing where candidates know
we got to go talk to these people.
We got to go to Margie's town hall, because if you want to talk to the seniors, and not to use it as leverage, but like if you want some senior votes, we got to go to Margie's because Margie is important. She started this thing. Like that is the best attitude.
Absolutely.
It's from getting off the couch to organizing to doing, and then to say, all right, post-mortem time. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? How do we make the next one bigger, better? And Margie, if I can give you, one piece of advice, employ help.
Yeah.
Get yourself a friend or two who can just take care of the details with you.
Some of the office stuff, maybe.
Less stressful.
There's so many details to keep up on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But she did say the Democrats were wonderful.
Yeah.
She invited people on both sides of the aisle.
Of course.
Jody Habush-Sinekin had a conflict, but she adjusted her schedule and came.
Look at that.
Ben Steinhoff and William Walter both came. All three were very open and supportive. All three Republican candidates declined, citing conflict issues.
That is telling.
And again, I believe this is one of the reasons why she wanted to do this, because they have been so locked in their safe gerrymandered districts, they don't have to respond to people's concerns. They just don't need you.
No, and honestly, if I'm going off of any sort of information we've gotten, say, from a guy who owns California property, who's running for the U.S. Senate because he's rich and bored, he doesn't think old people's votes really matter that much to begin with.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that they didn't show up. It disappoints me. It doesn't surprise me because there's a lot of older folks out there who are conservatives and Republicans. I mean, make some time. If anything, send a surrogate, send a campaign worker, send a friend. Be like, hey, I can't make it, but someone who knows.
I'll send my yes,
and I will take all your information. I want to be, but we will be represented there. But just to not show up and cite conflict, I'm sorry, but you can make it work. Jody Habush-Sinekin
adjusted
her schedule. and made it work.
It just seems to me like seniors in the last couple of years, because they've always been a very important voting bloc.
Yes.
Because they vote regularly in every election.
Yes.
But it does seem to be that there is less attention on that group of voters now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think it's a fallacy on both sides. I think that Democrats can think that older people aren't going to vote for them because they're older and conservative, which is a fallacy. And I think conservative people expect them to vote conservative because they're older, which is also a fallacy.
Yes.
It all goes back to what we were talking about with Kyle and all of these other candidates. You knock on the door and you talk to them. They might not be your party, but if they're a good person, they're going to have a conversation with you. And they might not even vote for you, but you've made an impression upon them. And those who showed up to this event, I guarantee you made an impression upon the people who came out, because it's one thing we all want, regardless of your age, your gender, or any of those things. We want to be listened to, we want to be respected, and we want to be part of the conversation. And seniors and children who are going to be voting age are constantly left out of the conversation because they're not seen as important or viable.
Well, Margie's still fired up. She's gonna keep working at it.
No doubt.
She's gonna keep organizing, and that's why I encourage all of us to be a Margie.
Be a Margie.
I don't care how old you are, how young you are.
Yeah.
You can still get involved, and it's important for all of us.
I'm looking at the live stream right now. We got a lot of people on the live stream right now because of the Dan Shafer bump. Be a Margie. Go vote. Talk to your friends.
Make a plan.
Make a plan.
Make a plan. If you are going to vote on Tuesday, on election day, maybe take a couple friends with you.
Yeah.
Go cast your votes. Go get a nice lunch. Make it a thing.
Jane, it sounds like we should make a plan. We should vote. And then maybe have some self-care time. Take care of ourselves.
That is a really important thing.
Treat yourself, if you will.
We were talking in the last break. I haven't been sleeping very well.
Yeah.
So I'm up every night. I wake up at 2:00 and it's like, oh boy.
Oh boy.
So yeah. What should we do for self-care, Greg Bach?
Well, I mean, everybody is different, but one thing that's great, and unfortunately, the internet's not opening it up right now, but Terry Barr, Civic Media's very own Terry Barr, wrote an article on civicmedia.us talking about 3 tips to find your peace in the political storm. I think those have to go with self-care, which is, step away from the noise first.
Put the phone down.
Get away from social media. Connection. Connection was one of, there was 3 things. It was, I can't remember the first one, but there was social media. Get away from that. Put it down. Just put your phone away and walk into another room for an hour. Also, make real life connections with people. Talk to them. Have a conversation. It doesn't have to be political. It shouldn't be political. But just take care of yourself. As far as personal for me, I mean, I've already voted. I voted on Monday. Very quick process in Kenosha. This weekend, it's a very busy weekend with the club. And then it's going to be in the car going right to Madison for the thing.
On Monday, yeah.
On Monday. So it's going to be a Sunday trying to take some time. Just
to breathe.
Like, just maybe go for a nice walk, go for a lunch. But you've earned that. You're doing the good work.
You can take a break.
What are you going to do, Jane?
I'm going to clean my house.
That's, you know what? That's self-care. That's your version of, I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. My self-care always involves the least amount of getting up as possible, but everyone does it differently.
It's got to get done.
Yeah. Calvin, do you have, I want to predict what Calvin's self-care will be. I'm going to say it's going to be reading, painting Warcraft figurines, and playing video games. Am I wrong or am I right, Calvin Butenhoff? Slick Cal B.
It's probably will be painting Warhammer figures.
There you go.
That usually includes listening to a podcast or reruns of SVU. I do that.
Hey, whatever brings you
whatever works.
Yeah.
What kind of podcast do you listen to, Cal?
Warhammer podcast?
No, not necessarily. Just, I guess, like some comedy ones, some like history ones, a mix of stuff.
Nice.
But not a political podcast when you're trying to do a little self-care.
Oh, yeah.
I like political podcasts, but yes, they kind of just raise my heart rate a little too much these days.
I mean, to be fair, he works for a network that puts out political podcasts all day long. So I would understand why you want to disconnect. But that's great. And, let us know what you're doing to self-care, to take care of you.
How do you take your break?
Yeah.
How do you take your break? 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. And you can call and text directly from the Civic Media app.
So amazing.
So amazing. I want to go back to something we had talked about a little bit earlier, and this is also something that came up earlier in the week.
Yeah.
This whole alpha male, beta male thing.
Yeah.
Grr. Mike from Green Bay texted in, and I think this is really great. He's listening in WGBW. I don't know what an alpha male versus a beta male is, but I will say this. I drive a semi 60 plus hours a week. I literally built my home with my 2 hands. And I just finished building a woodworking shop so I can make furniture that my wife designs. I go about my business quietly, I keep my head down, and I provide for my family. If someone like Trump or Vance tried to hang out with my group, they would get eaten for lunch.
I want to be Mike's best friend. I want to go to his woodworking shop and be like, teach me how to do this, sir. That is, honestly, I agree. All those labels get out of my face. That's the kind of man I want to grow up to be. I want to be a man who does good work, takes care of his family with his partner, and just lives his life in kindness and goodness and just does his thing.
And compassion.
Exactly.
And reliability.
Mike from Green Bay, you rule.
Integrity, honesty. I don't know, those crazy little things.
Just the idea. I just imagine Trump or Vance walking up to like his garage where all his buddies and friends are hanging out, maybe drinking a beer, and they're like, why are you here right now?
Oh, no, you're not coming.
Walk away.
Tom from LA is on the line. Good morning, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jane. Morning, Greg. I would say self-care would be going to the gym. And also, and actually when people, I wear my Harris Walls shirt, of course, but put my headphones in, and if someone even comes up to me to talk about politics, it's not the time. So, yeah, that's just the bottom line. And the other thing I would say is volunteering, phone banking. That's the one thing that really, really, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I'm ADHD and I have, just high stimulation is what I need. But the thing is, it's one of those things where it kind of relaxes me when I get very, very high stimulation, and that being, phone banking. So getting away from some of the media. Of course, I don't get away from Civic Media as much as I probably should, but you guys probably like that. So.
We're fine with that, Tom.
You never have to leave, Tom. We don't ever want. No, you can always take a break. But I think you make a really good point.
Yeah.
At that is your space where you don't want politics to intrude. So for this hour, this is my space.
And I'm going to say this, and I mean this, Tom, with all the living due respect you deserve with all the work you do. We see you on the text line. We see you in the comments. We know how passionate you are. But if Tom from LA can turn the politics off for 1 hour, we all can. Take that time for yourself. It will do you a heaping, helping load of good.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up with Jean from Eau Claire. Jean, thanks for joining us. We got about a minute. What do you want to say?
First of all, great show is always outstanding.
Thank you.
And also, what I do is I love to listen to James Santel, Amicus, a law review for 2 hours. And you're learning new things. It's not political. You're learning new things, and I strongly recommend it, as well as listening to you guys every day. So thank you very much, and have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much, Jean.
Jeannie is not a paid endorser of this network.
She's just a light. She is
know.
just a shining, bright, happy light. Thank you so much, Jean. Really appreciate that. All right, stay with us. When we return, this shouldn't be a thing. The Great Cheese Caper Edition. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the board lord, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park here in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Putz de Leon continues to actively ruin. Just a reminder that after the news at noon, Todd Alba will continue his road trip across Wisconsin. What makes Wisconsin great? Along with Trigby Olson of the Lincoln Project and Reed Galen will be there as well. So join Todd today from noon to 2 p.m. as they wrap up their across the state tour.
And then we're going to see him next week.
We're going to see him next week, Tuesday night. We will have all kinds of election coverage starting across the network at 6 p.m. So we're all going to be hunkered down in Madison for a couple of days. And it's going to be a really great evening. We have fabulous guests lined up.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep you posted as results start to come in. So join us for that Tuesday. I know, deep breath.
4 days left.
4 days left. Tuesday starting at 6 o'clock. It is 11:52. That means it is time for...
This shouldn't be a thing.
If you ever have a thing that should not be, send it in to Greg and me at Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS at civicmedia.us. This shouldn't be a thing. Great cheese escapade.
Get it? Great cheese edition.
GRATE.
Get it?
Nice.
We're comic geniuses here.
What's going on?
So, and it's taking everything not to do a British accent right now, a real harumphy one. But the British artisanal cheese community is reeling from what's being called the great cheese heist of 2024 after imposters stole tens of thousands of pounds, weight-wise, of high-value cheddar from a major distributor.
Ouch.
London-based retailer and cheesemaker Neil's Yard Dairy. They are the victim of, quote, this is true, victim of a sophisticated fraud resulting in the loss of over 300,000 pounds money worth of cloth-bound cheddar, the equivalent of $389,000 worth of cheese.
How much?
$389,000 worth of cheese. And none of them are in, like, sliced up in singles. So what are we doing here, people?
There's criminal gangs involved with cheese?
Oh, yes. They're very sophisticated. They have bowler hats and little mustaches.
That absolutely should not be.
No, it should not be a thing. And also, I feel like, that's just me, if you are handling items of such high value, it needs to be like better security then. Because if they got away with $400,000 worth of cheese, imagine how much is left. Lots. It involved a fraudulent buyer posing as a legitimate wholesale distributor from a major French retailer. Man, this is a movie. This is going to be a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
With the cheese delivered before the discovery of the fraudulent identity. I mean, seriously, this is Ocean's 11, but for cheese.
I was just going to say that. Ocean's fromage.
Ocean's au fromage.
Oh, yes.
The thieves made up with 900, and what I love are the numbers. 950 wheels over 22 metric tons, or roughly 48,500 pounds of Hafford, Westcombe, and Pitchfork cheddar.
Wow.
Yeah, no one should steal.
Obviously not. We would never know.
We're not advocating for theft. We're not advocating for creamery in a creamery. What we will say is this is the most hilarious one we've done so far. This is the most hilarious heist of 2024.
They got away. They're still on the run.
Exactly.
They're still on the run.
The police are looking for 5 to 7 really bound up men. We're like,
Hopefully we'll be able to have a complete the circle if and when these criminals are taken into custody. We'll have an update for you at that point. It's 11:56. That was today's edition of
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Greg Bach. Next week, coming up on Monday, we're going to have a very busy show. Alexander Vindman is going to return.
Yes.
If you remember, he was very instrumental. He testified in the first impeachment trial of the former president, and he was there when Donald Trump made the call to Ukraine, essentially saying, yeah, you want the aid you promised me? Well, I need you to do me a favor. Alexander Vindman will be here to talk about what a second Trump term could mean, especially on the global stage, and our relationships with our allies and just how important that is.
Yeah.
Derek Mosley from the Lubar Center at Marquette University. Wonderful, wonderful guy.
So excited.
Derek's going to come into the studio
Yeah.
and join us on Monday, and then Tuesday, retired Major General Randy Manner is going to be back from National Security Leaders for America, again, talking about what a second Trump term could mean, not just for America, but for the global world order.
We're going to keep talking about this even after the election because it's important. It's information that's always going to be important to all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Enjoy the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Make time to make a little time for yourself. Put down the phone. Go outside.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Touch some grass. Take care of yourself. And stay close, for the news is coming up next, followed by the one and only Todd Alba Show. Thank you so very much, Greg and Calvin, and all of our engineers and everyone across Civic Media. Without you, nothing works. Thank you most of all for calling and texting and for listening. It absolutely means the world. I hope you find some joy over the weekend. You get the chance to share it. Keep it right here on the Civic Media Radio Network. We will see you on Monday.